everybody. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. This is actually season number 2. I am so excited that I've actually had enough episodes for season number 1. I feel like I just got started, and I feel like each and every guest have taught me something and inspired me. So I hope that each episodes bring you sunshine, joy, and inspiration in your life. All right, I'm going to start with something that the guest that we're going to have next wrote in one of her books. I usually say quotes, and this is a quote, but it's kind of like a paragraph. It's a longer quote, I guess you could say. And just to think about the meaning behind it, and you'll understand what the show is going to be all about. All right, here we go. In essence, we all have the magic within us. We all are born with love, truth, intuition, and connectiveness. But when our foundation becomes cracked through the trauma of our experiences, our magic becomes buried in rumble. Once we understand this and repair, restructure, and in some cases, rebuild our foundation, we reveal a whole new layer of ourselves, and life truly begins to become magical. So our next guest, Dana Sardano, is the owner, resident artist, and intuitive at Ubuntu Fish Gallery in Stuart, Florida, a published author, co-founder of Phenom Publishing, and co-founder of Chief Officer of Curriculum+Content at finduniquelyyou.com. Dana has authored several books, all centered around personal growth and wellness. After picking up a paintbrush for the first time in 2015, since her childhood, she decided to retire from a 23-year-old career in education in order to fully embrace an artist's life and to model for her daughters the importance of listening to your soul's purpose by following your bliss. So let's go ahead and bring Dana out. Oh my gosh, she just wears me out. I mean, you girl, I can't believe as many things have you done that you are sitting up straight
Yeah.
and you have color in your face and you're smiling. I'm just very inspired just by everything that you have done and accomplished.
Michelle, I got to tell you, in your whole intro, the little video that you did, and you're reading my bio, I'm just going to be totally forthcoming. I'm literally holding back the tears, I'm like embarrassed by this. I'm like, what is a salty discharge coming from my eyes? Like,
Hey, you found it. What to me, and I love to do this because we are celebrating you because you are sharing your story with everybody. And you have in your books as well and in your paintings. I mean, look at that painting behind you. I know before we got on, I was telling Dana, I said, yeah, when I pick up a paintbrush like that, mine does not look like that. So, but anyway, yes. So we're going to celebrate you, and everybody wants to hear your story. Whenever I first saw you in your bio, I thought, oh my gosh, she has an art studio. She has one that people are learning about intuitiveness, about spirit art. And I love how you say that that art is very spiritual.
yeah.
So I'm going to stop talking and let you talk now. So hopefully the tears are dry now. If you cry, it's okay.
Oh my goodness, to be
Wait.
seen. We spend our lives seeing everybody, especially the more intuitive, we really try to understand and connect with people. And when oh, here it goes. I call it Kennedy Space Center because I was there with friends and family once, and I got so emotional, I was sobbing. So now the term is, oh, I'm all Kennedy Space Center. But but there's something so emotional about knowing that somebody just saw you and got you and connected with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. You're welcome. And
Yeah.
to me, and I know I've talked about this a lot of time on my podcast, but it's really hard to show others your unique self. And, and you try to hide it, and your life is just, and I don't, like you said, falling apart, rumble,
Yeah.
everything is in piles. And then you find your unique self. You finally surrender to your truth. and things start aligning up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, for me, it's been a little bit different because I do see people go through the world and they're afraid to be themselves. I was always out there loud and proud, and I got a lot of negative response because I wasn't, um, I guess, aligning with the right people, right? So because of my own, trauma and drama and dysfunction or whatever it is, I the pattern that I always lived was being told that I was too fill in the blank, right? You're too loud, you're too this, you're too anything, too opinionated. And so as a result, I was either combative, I was either fighting against it. I always say flipping tables, with either flipping tables to show who I was, or it was the opposite. You learn to regress. You learn to say, okay, then maybe I shouldn't be so, again, fill in the blank. And when I, through a series of experiences in my life where I finally figured out my worthiness and chose to live in my authenticity and not fight with my just be who I am and see who sticks and who doesn't and go with it, everything began to take a turn and the trajectory of my life shifted. And with every decision that I made that was in my best interest, my life got better and better. And just to give you, one more piece, I was just filling out a form for somebody's a part of a show. And his questions were really detailed. One of the questions he asked was, what do you most appreciate about your life? And I was like, send. And I was like listening to myself, my inner thought as I was writing it. And I was like, I could see where somebody would think I'm making it up, where I'm putting on airs. But the reality is when we respect our own worthiness and make decisions based on that, it is that wonderful. And then you cry when people see it.
Absolutely. And I, looking at your book too, and like you said, you have to surround people that in line with what you believe in. And it's very interesting how, those acquaintances kind of fall side. But there again, it's kind of like being a people pleaser and then no longer being a people pleaser. And I know that you mentioned that your husband at one time said, "You're not the woman that I married, that you have changed."
Yeah.
And so kind of tell us a little bit how you got over that, because a lot of people do have problems, whenever they do find their truth and they start walking that truth and they've been married for a long time, they do change. And sometimes their husband doesn't change with them, but you were able to get through those hurdles.
This is so important. I'm so glad you asked me about this. Of all the things that you read, I'm so glad that you asked me about this piece, because my husband, my schmoopy, he is really, really a special guy. But again, we all come from some sort of trauma, some sort of dysfunction. And then whatever our coping mechanisms were in those times of trauma and we carried through our lives, this is what we bring to our relationships, right? So when he and I met, we're together 10 years now. We got together, we're a little bit older, right? I got married, I was like 42 or 43. But you could do the math at this point. But when we got together, we were both good people living decent lives, but we both had our own trauma. And I was doing a 9-to-5er. I was working as an administrator in a high school, fighting the man to get what was right for the kids. I was tutoring another 10 hours a week. I was commuting, and I was raising 2 small children, and I was running all the time because you have to fit in the right size. And I was doing all of those things, the rules, right? I was following the rules. And that's who he married. And even though I was still a decent person, he married somebody who was broken enough for him that he could save, because that was his thing, right? And when I started painting, I was in this healthy relationship. I was cutting these toxic ties. I wound up leaving my career. That actually gave me RA. I shouldn't say exacerbated my genetic predisposition to RA. And all of those things, I started making these changes in my life. And when I had done that, Again, a little bit at a time. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up and start speaking to dead people, or at least not everybody does that. But what happens is you do these things that are in your best interest, that speak to your soul, that help heal certain traumas, and then you become more open to the beauty of life, and then something else shows up and you say yes, and you go, hey, you know what, maybe I will pick up a paintbrush today, and you do these things, and then it becomes more and more magical, and then you can't get enough. You're like, oh my God, I didn't know life could be this awesome. And that's what happened. So I picked up a paintbrush in 2015, married my husband. No, we're going to go back even further. Met my husband in 2012, got married in 2014, picked up a paintbrush in 2015, left my job, my soul-sucking job, to be an artist in 2017. And that's when it started getting kooky. That's when all what I call the unicorns, these like-minded spiritualists, were coming out of nowhere. That's when every need that I had, if I made a choice that was in my best interest, it became, my needs were met. And that's when I started, my extra sensory stuff started happening. And that's when all I wanted to do was talk about it all the time. And I wanted to fix him so it would happen to him too. And he was like, whoa, this is your journey, not mine. And that's when he said to me, and I wrote in the book, it was 2018. I remember where we were sitting. I remember what he was wearing. I remember the conversation. And he said, you're not the woman that I married. And we never spoke of it again, because I wasn't going to push it, because we had this beautiful relationship. We had this beautiful life. So I continued to do my stuff now in secret. I would have my friends, I would call it psychic and friends, in my studio. They come over and we would, do our witchy stuff, and I would never bring it up to him. But as you read in the book, as my life began to progress and I healed my wounds and I began to see my life a little bit differently, and I began to change, and my expectations of him were changing, our relationship improved, because he was always this great guy. I don't know how frank I'm allowed to be. Can I use?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was the asshole. It was me that was the asshole.
Right.
Because my expectation of him was unfair. You know what I mean? His life is his journey is his. So I guess to bring it home, my piece of advice or my insight to your audience would be, anybody who is going through these changes, it usually starts with creativity, something intuitive, right? Like we go into the rabbit hole and we start to open up. We immediately want to preach the word, and we want to go to anybody who is in our vicinity and tell them, you need to do this, your life would be better, and you need to do that. And everybody's journey is their own. And when we come to accept that, somebody gave me such a beautiful piece of advice. We're going back 5, 6, 7 years now. I'm like, yeah, my husband, he sucks and he doesn't get it. And, I want to dig a hole and bury him in the backyard. And I was like, what do I do about him sucking?
You're right.
And her response was brilliant. She said, first you have to not kill your husband. And then you'll learn not to want to kill your husband. And I was like, oh. So as I was working on myself, I was very conscious. Sorry, don't kill your husband. Don't kill your husband. No, it's not worth it. Don't kill your husband. And then as I started to grow and develop and broaden my awareness, because we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? When that began to happen, and I started to, this comes with work, this comes with time, this comes with your willingness to truly look at yourself, as ugly as it could be sometimes. And you come to this place of compassion and understanding, and you release the judgment. Oh, he just wants to love me. Yeah. It's just our brokenness sometimes gets in the way. And so the more I healed and realigned my brokenness through osmosis, he became the best version of himself. And I can't even tell you, it's truly a love story what's happened between the two of us. I'm going to cry again. I can't say enough good things about him. You read about him.
And I can tell because when you were going through your health problems, you were saying he would massage wherever you were really hurting. And I'm going, okay, I want my husband to be talking to your husband.
Yeah, and he still does.
Oh,
He
that's
still
awesome.
does. He is the schmoopiest of all schmoopies. And again, the fleas come with the dog. Don't misunderstand. I'm like, can I open the refrigerator door without you crawling up my ass just once? I know where the cheese is. I know where the olives are. I'm good. You know what I mean? He's a nonna. He's like an old Italian grandmother. I'm like, back off. So fleas do come with the dog
Oh,
on my end as
absolutely.
well. But he is just devoted and wonderful. And
Mm.
yeah, if I tell him that my feet hurt, he's like, give me your foot. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we did talk about that, because a lot of people do go through the same thing. And I know I did, because whenever I had my spiritual awakening in my 20s, my husband was going, oh, hell no. We're not going to, don't open that door, and I'm going,
Yeah.
okay. And then I would, like you said, secretly, I would go to like psychic mediums to try to get trained, to know what was going on, because
Yeah.
I was having a spiritual awakening. And then whenever I decided to work professionally, and this was 4 years ago, I
Mhm.
came to him and I said, you know what? I do want to stop education, and I want to do full time as a psychic medium. What do you think? And he goes, absolutely. And I went, what? So, they just kind of have to grow. And like you said, no judging, and just kind of let them be where they are on their
Where they
journey
are.
and accept that. And you can make it work, because a lot of people, I think, because we were talking about acquaintances, if they don't line up to you, don't, but that's totally different than a husband. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of
Yeah.
people make that, they really think, oh, well, if my husband's not going to be accepting me, my woo woo stuff, then we're done. And it's like, well, not necessarily. Sometimes, the spiritual world will put you together for a reason. And my husband
Yep.
helps balance me. He
Same.
really does.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I always joke that my husband is the reason that I leave the house with pants on, because he'll say, hey, maybe you want to put on pants today. I'm like, shit. Okay.
Dang.
That. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm running companies, right? I'm sitting in my gallery. I'm like, shit, pants. That's right. But yeah,
Now
they balance.
tell us about this gallery, because this is just so fascinating to me. I thought, if I had, all the time in the world and money, and but you opened up this gallery. Can you kind of talk about how it came to be?
Oh, okay. First, I want to answer
Oh,
your
sure.
first question that I
Oh, yeah.
completely ignored. You're going to be like, what did I ask you?
Yeah, I was
The
at what?
first thing that you said is how I make the point to say how intuition and creativity,
Yes.
how that
Yeah.
spirituality, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
pretended like you never asked, but we're back there now, so that's all that matters. But basically, when I began to truly open up, and that was again 2015, I started painting. Actually, in January 30th is 8 years that I picked up that
Wow.
paintbrush for the first time. But when I decided to leave my job in 2017, my husband said, "All right, I support you in any way I can. However, um, you can't drive your fancy car anymore because we can't afford it." I drove a Mercedes. I gave him the keys. He's like, we can't live in this house anymore. We're going to have to move out to a more rural community and a less expensive. Fine. We put the house on the market. Within 6 months, we moved. So we did that thing. So for 2 years, I got a part-time job teaching kids how to color, cut, and paste at a local Catholic school. I did a little like arts and craft thing. But for 2 years, I was really opening up spiritually. We moved out to this rural area, so I'm at one with nature. And as you know, you go back to nature and you totally find yourself.
Mhm.
And in those 2 years, I started meeting really magical people. Like I always joke in the gallery, I can't swing a cat without hitting a psychic medium. Or Reiki healers were like falling out of the sky. I don't even know what Reiki was, right? And I'm meeting all these like-minded people. So I met this woman, her name is Anne Marie, Trance Channel. Oh my God, we're publishing books now. That'll be in some sort of link somewhere, but she's just published 2 books. Amazing. So I meet her. She's off the charts amazing. And one day in conversation, I said to her, because it came to me while I was doing yard work, because right, that's how these inspirations come. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we got all our creative people together? We got our artistic friends and we got our intuitive friends, and we had like some sort of gallery, some sort of center, because the belief, and my belief is, at least, and again, to answer your initial question,
Mhm.
that when you are creative, we're all creators. Again, we could get into God, source, the creator and all that, but we're all an extension of that creator. So if we're all creative, then when we listen and to that creativity and we acknowledge it and we act on it, then our intuition wakes up as a result of that. And if we're intuitives by nature, it inspires us to be more creative. So wouldn't it make sense to create a gallery that you have your intuitives and your artists together? So I tell Anne-Marie this. I think that I have this profound idea. She's like, oh yeah, I had that idea several years ago. We're going to call it the Ubuntu Fish Gallery. And I was like, no way. So we talked about it, and no exaggeration, March, I had the idea. I had the idea. I had the idea 5 years after she had the idea, but I had the idea. And then we kind of like tossed it around a little bit. And then like by April, we were just sort of like, well, what would the logo look like? And what would we call it? Turned into the Ubuntu Fish Gallery, because I'm the Ubuntu girl and she was Moonfish. But again, we talk about that another time. And then by May, we kind of like brought it up to our husbands. We're like, wouldn't it be cool if, and they were like, okay. At this point, my husband, nothing surprised him. And then by June, we found the place. And then by July, I found the money. Talk about being in alignment. Like, no exaggeration. It was like, hey, we got this place, but how are we going to pay for it? Oh, look at all this money we have. And by August, we closed on the place. By September, we opened the gallery. And that was 3 years ago.
Wow. I mean, it just that is so fast. And like you said, everything aligns up. And it just seemed perfectly. Yeah. And I love looking at the pictures, especially I think it was on your Facebook or somewhere where people were actually doing art and they were doing intuitive stuff. And so I think that's
really cool,
fascinating that people have a place to go to.
Yeah.
So, and then you have this publishing company. So, and what's the name of it again?
It's called Phenom, Phenom, like phenom, like if something's phenomenal.
Okay. I was going to ask you why you came up with that name. Awesome.
That came from one day we were talking about all the things that we were doing. Like, oh my God, like, because we're freaking clowns. You got to be able to pick up on that at this point. We're like, oh my God, we're writing books and we're opening galleries and what's next? And I said jokingly, half jokingly, I'm like, dude, I'm a fucking phenom. Yes. And so when we decided to start the publishing company, I hope you don't mind that I'm being this candid.
Oh no, I love it.
Okay.
It shows because it shows your true personality. You know what I'm saying? If you try to control yourself, it's not your personality.
No, I've been trying to control myself for years. I gave up on it a long time ago. Like, here it is, folks. But anyway, so when we decided to start the publishing company, the general idea is for those of us who have a voice, we have something to say that comes from our heart and comes from our creativity, and we want to maintain the authenticity and the integrity of our voice to uplift, to inspire, to empower without being stifled by these giant publishing companies, or without getting lost in the sea of self-publishing and Amazon, you know what I mean? Right. And collaborate with one another. And this necessity is the mother of invention. It was birthed by me having books and me not being properly served in the publishing community. So I had 3 books. I had one I self-published, one I went through a publisher, and one I was about to publish. And we were like, no, we don't. Yeah. You want it done, you do it yourself.
Absolutely.
So we created the public. Yeah. Yes. So we've got people that we know that have a lot to offer. But then again, we're open to others as long as they're open to collaboration, because that's
well, I know you got your books right there with you. Okay. Show everybody your books and the name of it. Do you have them so you can show?
Yeah. So I got 2 of the 3 with me. I got a couple on deck too, by the way. But so the first one, the first one is called 10 Recommendments for Personal Empowerment. And the artwork, there's a painting in my gallery that's about 4 feet by 5 feet. It's huge. That I painted her when I was writing the book, because this aspect of myself, this girl who's busting out of her shoes, that's the whole idea of empowerment. And this is like a loose autobiography about, basically the shitstorm that I was born into, and I call it the dumpster fire of life, and how I learned how to address my own deficiencies and reconcile my imbalances by taking responsibility for myself. And I came up with these 10 pearls of wisdom that I call 10 recommendments. And so it's because I'm a teacher, right? So it's like how to, like, it's definitely gives you an action plan, but yet it gives you anecdotes of some of the ridiculousness that I've experienced in my life. And it gives profundities. It's got some real profound messages. I'm really proud of this one. And then the follow-up is called Beyond the 10, Decoding the Woo-Woo. And this is, once you clear out your dumpster fire, right? And you become more, I'm having trouble with the camera here. Very smart.
No,
okay? Visually, spatially. I'm a word girl, but visual spatial is not my thing. So once you align yourself, once you reconcile your imbalances, and once you heal the traumas and reverse the toxic, the irrational belief systems, toxic behavioral patterns, right? And you become more whole, then all of a sudden you awaken and you begin this spiritual journey. My spiritual journey was unintentional. I wasn't looking for anything. I kind of fell down a hole and just kept going in that direction. And it really talks about, I tried to debunk the mysticism of it. People talk about alignment and manifestation and all of these words that to the unintentional spiritualist is a little off-putting. And I kind of, through my own personal experience, explained, no, this is what it looks like when you're really face down in the pile of crap. Like, this is what it looks like, not like in the field with a crystal in each hand dancing under the moonlight. If you choose to do that later, that's your business. But that's not what it looks like when you're going through it. And this also is a painting that I have hanging in the gallery. So that's kind of cool about them both.
Oh, yeah.
They both have my artwork on them.
Oh, absolutely. So, you get to show yourself and your art and everything. But whenever I did read the Woo Woo book, to me, it really, I resonated with it. And I think a lot of people will as well. Because like you said, it's not about crystal balls. People are going, I want to understand what's going on, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And you really get to the point and you really explain about your life experiences so that somebody can really understand it. So
I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. So before we do the last question with the wheel, what inspiration? I know that we've talked about, what you have done, which is an inspiration, but what is an inspiration that you would want to tell somebody that's listening? Just any inspiration.
You mean something to inspire another?
Yes. Yes.
Here, oh my God, there's so many. Here's the thing. Many of us believe that it's outside of us. And many of us also believe that it's something that's attainable for somebody else and not for themselves. And if I could pass any pearl of wisdom on today, it would be that we all have the power within us. It doesn't always feel that way because life could really throw some shitty experiences at us. But when we understand that the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all in our best interest. It's either to learn or to grow or expand or to enjoy. Right? So the good things we enjoy, yay, and the bad things we want to kind of stuff away and sometimes even wallow or dwell in it. And if we can understand that we have the power to change anything that's unpleasant for us, as long as we understand our value, then there's really, truly nothing that you can't overcome or accomplish. I'm living proof. If you read either of these books, you're going to be like, oh my God, how is this even possible? I don't know. It just is. It just is. You just got to know it. You got to believe it.
Love it. And again, I love your personality. I mean, who would not? I bet who would not want to listen to you? I bet the kids absolutely loved you. when you
Oh,
oh my gosh.
I do have to tell you that they always came in hating me. I was in a private school, and always in the
Right.
first 2 months of school, I always had to go to the person in charge of curriculum and being like, "You do not let them sign out of my class." All the kids wanted to leave my class because I was so
Oh,
scary. But within the first
yes.
2 months, they were like, "Oh, that was just, you're really cool." I'm like, "I told you."
Yeah, and that's how
So
you should do it, because
yeah,
they will try to get away with anything, but if you set those guidelines, and
yeah.
I can see you doing that, I think that that would be perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and spin it. I feel like you're gonna win $1,000,000, right?
Yay! So do I do
Interesting.
anything?
Yeah.
What happened? What happened? What I win?
So, do you believe in aliens?
Oh, I don't know what to say to that. Yes, of course.
I know it's like
Duh.
everybody goes, and that has come up several times. It's so interesting how spirit always loves that question. So that's awesome. So you do believe in the alien. Now, do you believe that they're among us, or do you feel like um, that it's coming?
Oh my
Or do they
God.
go
Oh,
to different, what am I trying to say? Realms.
okay. Okay. I'm trying to make this succinct because I know you got an art class to go to. Here's what I think. Please do one of these if I'm going too off on this or going off too much on this. We are all energetic beings. The entire universe is comprised of energy. So if we are comprised of energy, and the plants are comprised of energy, and everything in our experience is comprised of energy, then there are life forces out there that are comprised of energy. Some of them are
Mhm.
incarnate, some of them are in bodies, and some of them are just energetic, just energy around in the universe. There are different realms based on your vibration. You just tell me when to stop. There's different realms based on our vibration, and there's also, like everything, there are two different sides of the coin. So are aliens scary? Well, there are denser, darker energies that aren't for the highest good. Just as the balance is, there are light energies that are for the highest good.
Mhm.
So, do I believe that they're walking among us? 100%. I believe that they're here to assist us.
Mhm.
And I believe a lot of people that are presently incarnated. We can't show this video to everybody because they will have me committed. But I believe that many of us that are presently incarnated are souls that are here to assist the elevation of our planet. And
Mhm.
we have this perception of what extraterrestrials are because of what the movies have shown us, right? And what
Mhm.
has been passed down in folklore. But the reality is, it's just other energy that's not in human form. And I also believe, and then I will put an end to it.
Yeah.
I also believe that our entire civilization is based on the assistance of these extraterrestrial. I don't like to say alien because it makes it sound weird, but
Right.
extraterrestrial. They're off the planet, have been assisting us in our development from the beginning of time and are continuing to do so. So yes, I believe in aliens, and I'm sure my alien friends will be very proud of me that I was open and honest in answering this question.
I love it. I love it. I know. I never know what I'm going to get of the true answer, because you're right. We're kind of like putting it out there out into the universe. But you know what? You're being your unique self. Well, Dana, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And I just love your personality, and I love what you're doing. And you're definitely changing the world.
Oh, Michelle, so are you. You're wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. And again, thank you for seeing me. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I love that definition of aliens. I love, and I know that any question that you would ask her, she has such passion. I just love it. Okay, I am going to say some more wise words from Dana. So this actually came from one of her books. We're going to end the show this way. And she stated, "When we attach our well-being to stuff, we are no longer empowered to create our own feelings of security, freedom, or love. We rely on external acquisitions to ignite those feelings in us. And when we spend our lives in pursuit and protection of those acquisitions, we not only rob ourselves of joy, but we also imprison ourselves, ultimately robbing ourselves of the freedom that we seek. All right. So I hope that you got inspired during this podcast, and we will see you next week. And thank you for listening.